Let's go above the 0.4. Now, what's the story? I keep coming back to that because it's not the data. And one of the mistakes that I've unfortunately been culpable in is when people read my work, they say, oh, that's at the top, let's do that. And they miss the point. Because some of the things at the bottom should be higher. And the story to me comes back to this notion of challenge. How do we know how to appropriately challenge kids? And let me give you a kind of a metaphor. How many of you have been addicted at some stage to Angry Birds? Yeah, good analogy. Now, when you play those kind of computer games, they know exactly what your prior learning is. They also know that they have to set a challenge sufficiently above your prior learning to tempt you to try and get there. If it's too high, you won't do it. It's too easy, you give up. And then they pour in the feedback information to help you get there. And if you're like me, who gets addicted to these things, you then go up on the web and you look, how do I pass level 4 of whatever it is in the thing, and you get help and assistance. That's the metaphor. If we can help our students understand and our teachers understand what prior learning is, and the killer is in any one class, it can be quite dramatically different. If we can then help kids understand what the challenge looks like, it's not a mystery. We're not going to get to the end of the class and wait 5 weeks and at the end I'll give you a test and I'll tell you what success looks like. How do we come up with multiple interesting ways to help kids understand what success looks like as they begin this process so they know what it is they're changing? The teacher's role is to reduce that gap. And I have a lot of time for that notion of gap. Think of the concept of feedback, which is going to appear on this chart soon. Feedback works by finding out where a kid is, finding out where they're supposed to be, and then putting in the feedback to reduce the gap. Feedback. And the biggest issue in feedback for me is how you, the teacher, get feedback about your influence. And so when I tried to sum up in a pithy statement what this is all about, it is in those phrases, know thy impact. And the argument that I put is if teachers go and school leaders go into a school and they start with that mentality and they wish to evaluate their impact, all else good things follow. And my biggest frustration that I have in this whole business is teachers are the first people not to acknowledge their own success. They love to give the credit to the kids, and I think that is killing our profession. It's allowing everyone to say when there is success out there, look at this kid, he did his homework, he put in the effort, he came to school and cried, he did all this stuff. Hey, I bet there was a teacher in that equation.
So there are two basic types of mindset. There's the fixed mindset, which is the belief that kids are born with whatever talents they're going to have. They have certain proclivities. They're gifted.
They're natural.
Their traits are set in stone, basically. Mm-hmm. And the growth mindset is the belief that success really comes from effort and practice and hard work.
So this is almost like nature versus nurture, right?
Yes, exactly. So the fixed mindset is the really strong belief in nature. And the growth mindset places much more emphasis on effort and hard work to get where you want to go and to be successful. But here's the problem with the fixed mindset. When you label Georgia as a smart girl or something,
which I've only told her about 1,000 times.
Yeah, I know. I say to my kids, "You're brilliant. You're a genius." I mean, I think it's very natural to do this. But here's the problem: you give them that label, and it kind of puffs them up a little bit, and they like it, and then they don't want to lose it. So she's going to go out in the world, starting to evaluate situations and what she does in terms of whether or not she's going to look smart, whether or not she's going to win or lose. It's going to start to become a little bit of an insecurity for her. She's going to always be wanting to.
She's got to prove it.
Right. So what happens when something doesn't come naturally to them? They have to put a little effort out for it. Does that mean they're dumb? Does that mean they're not innately talented?
Right.
So then they start to look at the world in terms of situations. Am I going to look smart in that situation?
Right. It's why the kids don't take hard classes. It also just pulls all the control away, because if you think that the reason why you did well on the test is because you're so smart,
right,
and then you do poorly on a test,
right,
then what does that mean? That you're no longer smart? Right. Whereas if you're giving all the credit to effort and studying and time on task and getting extra help from the teacher,
right,
then you know how to create the outcome that you're driving for.
Carol Dweck,
the mindset lady.
Yes, the mindset lady has been going into schools and giving kids a simple test. And all the kids do pretty well on it. But then she divides them into groups. And some kids, she gives them one line of praise. All the kids, she's going to give one line of praise. Some kids, she praises their intellect. She says,
"You're so smart.
You did great on this test. You must be really smart." Other kids, she said, "You did really well on this. You must have tried really hard."
Right.
So then she went back to the kids and she said, "All right, you can do the same simple test, or you can do a harder one, which you might learn from."
And all the "You're so smart" kids started sweating profusely and having panic attacks.
And they took the simpler test. But in one study, 90% of the effort-praised kids took the harder test, which is really a remarkable result.
Right.
What we're saying here is not that you shouldn't praise your kids.
Right.
We're saying you need to praise them in a really specific way. So the effort-praised kids, they reported having more fun on these tests, even when they weren't doing as well.
Right.
They wanted to take problems home to practice.
But "You're so smart" kids don't want to take it home and practice because they don't need to practice because they're so smart.